Welcome you all, here is Sigbiker, and today I'm gonna show you 3 most outdated, in my opinion, parts that are still being used on those modern bikes. We're gonna start with the part that comes with those bikes that cost maybe $200 up to $500. Then we're gonna go up to even $1,500 bikes, and finally I'm gonna show you something that is still being used on those even most expensive bikes, and I think we're gonna open up some discussion here. So the first part is called the Freewheel, and this is bad, this is old, and I'm really surprised it still comes with so many bikes. This is called Freewheel because it not only has those sprockets that we need on our rear wheel, but also the system, the Freewheel system, with the poles inside that allows us to either spin backwards or just go forward on our bike without pedaling forward. So this is the Freewheel. This is the cassette. This is good, this is bad, this is light, this is heavy, this is less maintenance, this is more maintenance, and now I'm gonna show you why. The cassette has only the sprockets put together, so some kind of system, maybe a spider or not, that allows us to keep those sprockets together, and then these sprockets will be put on our hub, which has a free hub assembled to it. This one will be threaded because you can see the thread here on the hub, and it has the free hub itself. We are threading it in also simply by pedaling forward, so you can just imagine how difficult sometimes it is to remove this little boy of our bike after months of hard pedaling. So this is really bad. This is good. If we wear out our sprockets, in case of having the cassette, we only replace the sprockets. Sometimes on the cassettes we can also replace some individual sprockets, which is really cool. Here you're not able to remove any cog individually, and also if it wears down you have to remove and replace a whole system. This is really cheap, but we kind of waste material here, and this is much better. Here also, if you want to upgrade your bike to 9, 10, 11 speed, you're gonna have compatibility issues, because then you're gonna have to replace the hub as well. This one comes like up to 7, I think, maybe 8, I think up to 7 gears, and these cassettes come from 8 up to 12 gears, and this is something you would like to have on your bike. So if you're looking at the bike for a couple of $100s, I would recommend buying the cheapest one, not with the Freewheel, but with the cassette. So the cheapest one with the cassette will let you upgrade and will not cause so many problems. Alright, the outdated part number 2. This is old, this is really old. Square tapered crankset means that we have 3-piece, we can say, system. We have the right crank arm with the sprockets, with the chain rings. We have the left one, and then we have the bottom bracket, and it's called square tapered because the spindle is squared, as you can see, and tapered, and it's tapered so that we'll be able to put our crank arm onto it and then use some nuts to assemble it all together. So this would look just like that. Disadvantages. Number 1, this is really heavy. Number 2, and even more important for me, because I don't mind having a bit more weight, or maybe even much more weight on my bike if it would be good, but this is not really stiff. This spindle is really small. Today we have everything oversized on our bike. This is small, this is not stiff. This sometimes, quite often, you will see your crankset just moving around and the chain rubbing against the front derailleur if you're pushing hard. So this is not the best system, and it is super old. This would come with the bikes maybe up to, I don't know, maybe even $600, and still being outdated. And coming with bike up to even $1,500 is the Okta Link system. That's the second one, but still outdated. Still, we have three pieces. We have bottom bracket, left arm and right arm with the chain rings. But here, what's changed here is that there is no square tapered spindle here. The spindle looks like that, comparing to the square tapered. And also you can just see through this one compared to this one, which is not hollow. So this one is a bit more oversized spindle, a hollow one, so lighter, a little bit stiffer, and it will be put on your bike just like that. And this is also pretty heavy, even though lighter than the square tapered, but pretty heavy. And you will still need a special removal tool in order to remove your crank arms from the spindle. So finally we are getting to the best system, which is the so-called two-piece system. And believe me, this is not like super duper very expensive stuff, but that's the best way to build the cranksets in nowadays. The spindle is being assembled to one of the crank arms on Shimano, the right crank arm. Then we have the left crank arm, and this is the bottom bracket. Okay, so the bottom bracket does not come with the spindle, just as it was with the Okta Link at the square tapered. These are only the bearings here, and the spindle is assembled also hollow. Is assembled to our right crank arm, in this case right crank arm. Advantages: lightweight, and even more, stiffness. This is really stiff. This is really easy to maintain because you simply thread those cups into your bottom bracket shell. This just goes through, and you don't need any additional tools in order to remove your crankset. This is the Ori, and it's not really expensive, so this is not expensive stuff. It's just okay. Another advantage of this system over the older one, you can look at the bearings. Okay, that will be better. Yeah, so the bearings on the one-piece or two-piece system are much wider in position than the square tapered or Okta Link. That means much more stiffness, and that's something that we really need. So these are much more wide apart comparing to these, which are here inside. Okay, so this was number 2, and it really comes with some pretty expensive bikes. Like I was showing you the Marine Argenta, it still comes with the Okta Link system. Okay, it's getting quite messy on my table. And now the final thing, and this is cartridge bearings. And I know many of you will tell me, hold on Danny, the cartridge bearings is the newer system than the so-called angular bearings or the cap and cone bearings, which have been used on the bikes for years. And I must tell you then, yes, it's true. But cartridge bearings were not really designed for bicycles. Last year on the Eurobike, I talked to cartridge bearings manufacturer, which makes, they make also these ceramic bearings and so on. And I asked them the question, how much of a grease we should put into the cartridge bearings. And then I was told that cartridge bearings were actually designed for high speed or high RPMs, which never is the case of our bikes. And so they would recommend me to put more grease on the cartridge bearings on the bicycle, so that I'll be just sure that all the balls have some grease inside, so not just like 1/3 or half, but a bit more of the space inside the bearing. So that's one thing. Another thing is that these cartridge bearings are normally not angular bearings. These are radial bearings, and that means these are very good for those straight up and down forces, which is not the case of our bicycles, because if we ride steady and don't pedal, that's okay. But if we start to pedal, these are the bottom bracket bearings, the things change. And also when we ride our bike rocking from side to side, those bearings on the wheels need to resist other forces than just the radial one. So I would say, even though this is a newer design than the angular bearings, still angular or cap and cone bearings, if done really perfectly like Shimano can do, for example, that's the better choice for our bicycles. Let me know, what do you think about all of these? I think the Freewheel will be pretty easy stuff, and this old square tapered and Okta Link stuff, but I'm opening the discussion especially for the cartridge bearings. What do you think about those? There are some angular cartridge bearings, for example, on our headset. So do you also feel more friction when you apply some lateral, when I'm pushing laterally, when you apply lateral forces? Can you feel more friction than on simply lateral ones? I do feel that on my bearings. Let me know what you think. These were 3 most outdated parts on modern bicycles. Thanks for watching, and see ya!